Hello.
Hello.
Hi.
I hope you're all doing well, keeping busy and staying healthy. We miss seeing all of your faces on Wednesday nights. My kids are really missing their friends. This is such a strange time in the life of our church and in the world at large, but we're getting creative at finding ways to keep in contact with each other. I am very thankful for technology that lets us get a little peep at each other, even through all of this. Since I can't be in my church kitchen right now cooking for all of you, we thought it might be fun to put together a few videos of some cooking and baking basics. Of course, we all have the internet to research recipes, but I'd like to share some of the recipes I was going to make this semester, but that we are now missing out on. These are recipes many people have asked for in the past that I never got around to sharing. So here we are. I'm very sad that we missed grilled flatbread last week. That's my favorite, and I'd like to share that one with you at some point. But today we are going to start with my most basic loaf of bread, since bread has been a little hard to come by in stores. This is a no kneading artisan bread. It's the bread I make to dip in soups on Wednesday nights. It's very, very easy, and it's cheap. Costs about 50 cents a loaf to make, and it's just way better than store-bought, in my opinion. It freezes really well. If you ever have leftovers, it slices well. It's nice and crusty. This is also a basic recipe in that it doesn't need any fancy cooking gadgets. You need a bowl and a spoon. That's about it. So you don't need any extra tools. I have every cooking gadget under the sun around here, but I shouldn't assume that you all have the same problem as I do when I go into a cooking store. Anyway, so all the other thing you need maybe is a couple of bored kids who need something to do, something to learn. This could be part of homeschool. Yeah, it's a good skill, learning how to make bread. I hope you all have some flour. That's another thing that's been a little hard to find. I couldn't find any the other day, but then I went back the next day and they had plenty. So this recipe calls for bread flour. You can use all-purpose flour. I just prefer bread flour because it has a higher protein content and it makes it just chewier and just a better loaf of bread in my opinion. But anyway, we are starting in a large bowl with 7 cups of bread or all-purpose flour. I don't sift my flour. My kitchen ladies will tell you I am not the most precise of cooks. I did try to write out this recipe as close as I remember to how I usually throw things in a bowl. So to the flour, I add 1 tablespoon of dry yeast. Now, I always buy the giant bag of Costco yeast. It lasts forever in the freezer. It's very, very cheap. But if you have the individual packets at home, this takes 2 of those. So here, okay, so heaping teaspoon or tablespoon, sorry, looks like about that, okay? Straight into the flour. Then we need, yes, a tablespoon of sugar. This just helps with the yeast, get it activated a little bit. This is not a sweet bread at all. All right, so about a heaping tablespoon of sugar. Again, careful measuring. And then salt, a tablespoon of salt. So, okay. Nope, we need the spoon. Okay. All right, there you go. Pour that right in the bowl. Okay, all these things together. That's all we do for the dry goods. A lot of baking books will tell you to proof your yeast. Soak it in water with some sugar to get things going. I don't ever really do that step. I've learned cooking for a lot of people over the years how to skip a lot of steps. This seems to work just fine without proofing your yeast ahead of time. So I just have it all right in there. Just kind of stir it in there a little bit. And to those ingredients, we're going to add 3 cups of just room temperature water. Doesn't need to be hot. Just pour it right in the bowl. Oops. Oh boy. Okay. So that's it. Then you just stir it. Let's see if we can hit carefully so it doesn't slosh over the bowl. Okay, there we go. Get it down there a little bit. You guys can do it together. This can also be a learning experience for sharing. Now, You may have to get your hands in there a little bit just to help all the flour be absorbed into the water. You don't need to knead the bread until it's a smooth ball of dough. This one's going to be just kind of lumpy and sticky. All right, can Mommy have a turn? There we go. Okay, so we're just going to get it in there. Don't be afraid to make messes. Messes are fun. Okay. All right, so once you've gotten most of that in there, make sure you've washed your hands ahead of time. Okay, this is looking kind of dry still, so I'm going to go ahead and get my hands in there. Okay, just gotta mix it up. Okay. I'm gonna go ahead and do it. All right, that's almost incorporated. Spin your bowl around a little bit. All right. Don't have to get every speck mixed in because as it sits, it's going to absorb more and rise. Okay, so since it's 85 degrees today, hello spring. So here's what we're looking at. Okay, it's a little rough looking. We're going to let it just sit on our counter. We don't need to put it in a warm space. We're going to put some saran wrap on it, or a damp towel, or some kind of lid that fits. Okay. Good job. Thank you. Okay, so that's it. All we got to do now is wash our hands and wait for the yeast to do its magic. I'm thinking this will take about an hour to rise as much as we need. So we'll check back in about an hour. Thank you. Hello again. I'm all alone. My helpers deserted me, but this is just a quick interim step before we bake our bread. It's been about an hour. My bread rose almost to the top of my bowl, which is where we want it. So off this goes. You'll see I've got some flour sprinkled on a surface here and a jelly roll pan with parchment paper in it. You can just spray it or oil it or use a Silpat or whatever you want. So that's ready to go. This dough can also go in a bread loaf pan if you want, but I like it better in a long French loaf kind of shape. So get your spatula or scraper and just, this is going to be pretty wet dough, remember. Should come out nice and easily. Okay. So we're going to give it a few turns with a little bit of flour just to, it's very soft, it feels nice. Okay, so this is what we're looking at here. I don't know how well you can see it. Okay, now this makes 2 loaves of bread, quite large loaves, so this will be plenty of bread for a large family, or you could make 4 smaller loaves, freeze some of them. You could make this into little rolls if you want. So I just cut it roughly in half. Again, no need to measure or weigh. And then it's just going to be a really, it's not a beautiful loaf of bread like my braided loaves. It's just, you know, stretch it out as you go into a baguette kind of a shape. Okay. So you'll find that the gluten in it is going to make it kind of pull back on itself. So just stretch it out a little bit, let it rest. Okay, that's what we're looking at here. And then I just lay it on my baking sheet. Okay, do the same with the other. Okay. There we go. All right, like that. I'm just going to lay it on the sheet again. Now those need to rest again for about another 20-25 minutes. So we're going to cover them back up and just let them sit. You can go ahead and preheat your oven to 425 degrees. See you in a few. Okay, it's been 25 minutes and this is what my bread is looking like now. It gets big, okay? All you have to do before you put it in your 425 degree oven, this is not required, but it gives it a wonderful golden crispy crust. This is just one egg beaten together with a splash of water. So I'm just gonna coat the top of my loaves here. And then as soon as I have done that, we will slash the top of the loaves with a sharp knife to just kind of help them open up in the oven and give them that authentic French bread look. Knife. So I'm just going to do 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, and then just a sprinkling, if you want, gives it a nice flavor of some coarse kosher salt all over the top. Okay, those are going into the oven for 20 to 25 minutes. Catch you later. Okay, it's been 25 minutes, and before it gets too dark in my kitchen, I'm gonna pull my bread out of the oven. And there you have, if you can see them without sliding off, 2 beautiful loaves of bread. They smell amazing. A lot of times for dinner, we don't bother with soup. We just tear into this with some bread and cheese and call it a night. It's a very inexpensive meal. And really, from start to finish, you have to let it rise. But it's really not a lot of work at all for a lot of good results. So anyway, thanks for stopping by and for tuning into this first video. Let me know if you have any requests for any of the food that I often make or something that maybe you just want to know more about, and I'd be happy to give some things a try. Thanks, guys. Hopefully we'll see you sooner rather than later.